that depending on where you are, you might be in a very, very distant country. You know, we are online, so we are international. We have students even in Japan. I just heard about one of our students in Japan. That's quite exciting. So depending on where you are joining us, my warm greetings. So we are going to start with Learning Unit 2. Obviously, we're not going to cover everything, but we're going to try to focus on few areas because Learning Unit 2, as some of you, if you've started Learning Unit 2, you could rightfully so see that it's quite a lot of material, right, that you need to cover. And but still, no worries. Let me first begin by three. I think I have for housekeeping about four quick things, and then we will delve into what we have to do. Don't worry, we're gonna cover all your questions. So I want if I'm missing out on or you feel like I'm overlooking one of your questions, just remind me again. Um, I need to juggle uh, between two screens, and also I just need to see my chat. Okay. So the first thing is, can I point out about at-risk students? I do have about 5 students. I've been trying to get hold of them. I'm not able. So please, if you are one of those 5 students, how would you know if you are one of those 5 students? So if you are listening to this recording, I did send you an email to say, please, can you just revert? And I have not heard back from those 5 students. So that's a bit scary for me, right? In our chat, I'm in close contact with about 22 of you. The class is a bit bigger than that, so it's probably 26. We've got a nice class. And I am aware that some of you are being registered late. So you are late, Reg, but you need to catch up quickly, right? So please, if you receive my email, just revert. Okay, so that's the first thing. So for at-risk student, and as I pointed out last time, but the reason I'm pursuing you in the beginning is so that through the foundation phase, I want you to be active, because otherwise, when we move to the advance, you might struggle quite a lot. Yeah. So that's the reason why I'm always trying my best to get hold of you, especially if you are not active. Right. Okay. Another quick point there. I hope I was clear on the fact that there are no dumb questions, no ridiculous questions, especially here in the beginning, right? Sometimes when you ask maybe a question, I will refer you to one of the sections, or a particular tutorial that we've already covered, just to remind you. Okay? So, but there are no dumb questions. Ask all your questions and make sure that you clearly understand, especially, again, I repeat one more time, because the stage is foundational. So I would rather you take all your time to understand learning unit 1 to 4, and your knowledge is well seated and you have practice enough so that when we move to the advanced stage, you don't struggle, right? Okay, so I need to cover something on plagiarism. Okay, I don't know how I'm going to do it, but I'm going to try to do it as quick as possible, right? But let me just take a break here, and I saw that there were few hands. So feel free to unmute yourself and ask question, or if you would like to write it down in the chat, up to you, but you can unmute yourself. So was I mistaken? I saw a few hands that were raised. It's about 10 people. Any questions at this stage? Any question? Okay, maybe could have been an error because I saw a couple of hands that were raised at a certain time. Okay, cool. Okay, now the play. Oh,
Hello.
yeah, yeah,
Oh, sorry.
yeah.
Yeah, I just had a quick question. I wanted to find out about the task one.
Yes.
I'm not, sorry, this is my first session. I don't know if you've gone over it yet, but um, how do we go about submitting it? And then also, where do we find it? Because I found the submission links. I just don't have access to the actual assignment questions.
Awesome. Fairly simple question. Who's asking the question?
Riley.
Trench. Riley. Oh, Riley's in the
Yeah.
house. Okay, cool. Riley, actually that was covered, and it's true. It's quite true that you are new. Uh, is it Riley or Ray?
It's
No.
Riley. It's Riley.
Okay,
Yeah.
because it's two people with similar names. But
Sorry.
yeah, I got hold of one of you. Okay, but let me say that this is covered in our first session. But I will, don't worry, I will also point that because what I might do is in the middle of our session, I might go and show you. But it should be on, if you go on ARC, right, for financial management, right, it should be there where you would see the different learning units. And below those different learning units, you will see test one and test two.
Okay, perfect.
Am I correct for the rest of the class? Feel free to let me know if I'm right, right? So I don't know if it says test one, but it should say formative one or something. I might be, but it's there, right? Guys,
Okay.
am I correct? So let me
Yes,
know that
you're
I'm all
correct.
right. So it's there. Okay.
All right, perfect. Thanks, guys.
Okay, cool. So um the plagiarism. But you know about plagiarism. We've already spoken about that. Actually, what I wanted really to touch on was AI, right? So we've added a section to our plagiarism with regards to AI, right? So I have actually added that to our, let me see if I can share my screen. Just give me a moment. Quite a lot of things open here. All right. So if you go to our content library, so guys, just let me know if you can see.
Yes,
Thumb,
we are able to see.
perfect, perfect. And guys, feel free to use the thumb app, right? There is that reaction thing on your screen, and you can use that. So feel free to use the thumb app, so I can see that we are on the same page, right? So if you go to our content library, I added the guide there. There's a guideline. As you can see, this is the guideline for responsible use of AI. Okay, I want to go down quickly to page, I think, 7, 7, 8, 9. But you read this, you browse through this, but this is very important, right? And I need to raise this with you to tell you that if you've used AI, and and this is very important. Don't think that I'm wasting a bit of time. No, I'm not wasting a bit of time because I don't want it to cause you trouble, right? Plagiarism, as you know, be careful with plagiarism. So when you're going to be doing your test one and your test two, the theory questions, right? Whatever you're answering there, you would refer the textbook and any other extra sources that you are using. That right? Because you are a second year student. Let me be confident enough that you know this, right? You're not a first year student. So you should know this, right? But now we have another layer of complexity now, or of complications, because now AI is in the mix, right? So if you are using AI, which I have to say, I wouldn't advise you because no. So I wouldn't advise you to just simply use AI and to copy and paste whatever you're getting from the AI and you put it in your test. It's not a good thing, right? I don't know why, I'm laughing about this, but I just want to show you logically that that's not very helpful, right? So you might use AI, whatever AI is out there, especially when you're struggling with specific questions. I encourage you to do so. I'm not one of those lecturers who's going to tell you do not. No, I'm saying use it, but remember again, it's how you're using it. Use it responsibly. Use it so that it's going to help you to understand. There are few concepts that if you're using AI it's very good at breaking things down for you. So it's quite a useful tool. So I encourage that. But what I do not encourage is that if it's not going to bring critical thinking to you, it's not going to bring good practice to you. It means that it's not helping your brain. You're just basically copying and pasting whatever you see there. Let's say maybe for your test, you take the entire test, you put it on ChatGPT. ChatGPT does the work for you. That's lazy work. And that's what I'm trying to say, that you should never do. You never do. Because even if by miracle, first of all, AI, whatever AI is telling you, AI, there's something that we call AI hallucination. So it might seems like it's giving you the correct answer, but it's not actually, right? So, but you say, but I would double check. Okay, cool. You double check. But my thing is that if your brain is not working, if you're not learning and practicing, all that will be pointless because you will do well in your test one, in your test two, but then the exam you will fail miserably. So I hope that that's clear, right? So, um, but if it happened that you use even in other modules that you have, right? There is a way for us to acknowledge that, right? And this you can use this. This is basically the annexure that you need to produce to say that you did use. So it's a disclosure of AI usage. All right. You need to disclose where you use it exactly and why, what was the reason why you were using it. Okay. So I'm going to give you time to let that sink in. Is this clear? So I'm not never going to pretend that, none of you know anything about AI. None of you are using it. Obviously, AI is a brilliant tool, but remember, it's always about the use. And if you're going to do lazy work, you would like the AI to do the work for you. That's going to be a big problem because I'm saying, and especially for this module, it is pointless. It is really, really pointless because I'm looking at your final written exam on campus. You're not going to have AI. So if you've been doing lazy work, it's trust me, it's going to be catastrophic when you write your final exam. Okay, so that's it. Those are the few points I wanted to bring. And this, by the way, I've added it, as you can see. You can have access to it on your OneNote. Okay, so let's begin with our learning units. Right, so thumbs up if you can see my screen. Perfect, perfect, I like that. Right, so you've gone through, some of you have started. I have to say that depending on the way you're looking at it, right? You might say we still have a little bit of time. We still have a little bit of time because we are only writing on the 26th. But if you think about it, we only have 2 more sessions of practice for both learning unit 1 and learning unit 2. It's not that much. I can tell you, it's only 2 sessions away, and then you find yourself you are writing. And one of the things that I don't do is that close to your test or one day before the test, I don't like in the middle of the night you starting to send messages because you don't understand something, right? So if you are active from now until you write your learning unit 1, you will do very, very well. And guys, that's what I repeated to you. Failing this module would be a choice, would be really the choice that you are making. I can guarantee you, and I have good feelings about this, and I pointed that out when we started to say that I believe that the student that we have, of you, all of you are very capable, and I'm sure that you're gonna ace your test 1 as well as your test 2. And boy, you need to ace it, right? So make sure you get the highest distinction. Your 80%, your 90%, and that's possible, right? So especially for test 1, give me a 90%. And I want that, I expect that from the entire class. Give me a 90%. And you know why? You know why? I told you. Because you will be looking for that 2% to pass the code, the module, and you're not going to get it, especially if you fail miserably of the written exam, right? So sometimes doing very well for test 1 and test 2 will save you. Okay. So we have a couple of themes. I think for this learning unit, we have, I think, 3 themes, right? The first one is the effect of income and expense items on your net profit. Okay. So the first learning objective, remember, we always start with the learning objective. Let me do a correct presentation for you. I apologize that I'm not doing the proper presentation. So if you just, yeah. So I'm sure you all can see. So this is the proper presentation. As you can hear, that is your audio on your first page. Like I told you, on your first page, you would also have an audio that summarizes everything. But since I didn't get a lot of feedback on this, it seems like you guys are not really, you're not really hot on this, right? So maybe the audio might not really be needed. So you let me know. Just let me know in the chat there if you are enjoying the audios, if they're helping you. I suppose some of you might be very busy, and that's the reason why I designed some material also for you. In case you are very busy, you can even listen to the audio on a learning unit. But if it is pointless, just let me know, or if it is useful, so that I can keep doing that, right? Okay, so remember again, our first learning objective, it's the component of the financial statement, right? Financial statement, a complete set, financial statement. Wait. I think just to make it clear where we are going with this. So my first question, from your readings, do you understand the income statement? Or the statement of comprehensive income? Or should I go to the textbook for you quickly to show you, or is that clear to you? Because remember, this is a quick summary just to make sure that you guys, we are on the same page. So if you have started reading, you probably saw that there's 2 statements that are very important for learning unit 2. What are those 2 statements? In our chats, what are those 2? But quiet here. Are you guys here? Wonderful. Thank you so much, Connor. So there is the statement of profit and loss. And which other statement? We're just going to break down quickly and easy. And that's the reason why I was saying the statement of comprehensive income. Yes, Connor, actually the two are more or less the same. Yeah, I know there is a bit of variation between the two, depending on 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 who's doing what, but it should be more or less be the same. So the income statement or the statement of comprehensive income or the statement of profit and loss, although there might be slight variation when it comes to the actual profit and loss statement, depending on who the practitioner is. But yes, so that's one statement. What is the other statement that you picked up in your readings that is very, very critical for the rest of the module until we are at the end of the semester? Which other statement did you see? Items on net profit. Sadiran, interesting. Let me say interesting. Remember, it's a statement. Statement of financial position. Okay, that's the place where I always try to ensure that before we do anything, we are on the same page. So I'm a bit worried, but I'm sure that you guys are going to catch up. Like I said, you don't have too much time. You do not have too much time, but please make sure that you cover learning unit 1 and learning unit 2. And again, to remind you, I would prefer, I would prefer that you work first, you use the tutorial, because the tutorial will give you quickly a summary, just like I'm doing now. So you won't be wasting time. So the tutorial will give you a quick summary. And then when you delve deep into the actual notes, then you can finalize your notes and you can quickly start practicing, right? Yeah. So remember your balance sheet. You know your balance sheet. Can I get thumbs up for all of you who understand what a balance sheet is? Wonderful. Connor gets it. Who else? Please don't worry me. Esther gets it, right? That's about, oh, Christian gets it. Nafisa gets, oh, I was getting worried. Wonderful, wonderful. Adebayo, you get it. Right. So a lot of you understand that. So, and you know, if you've gone through the tutorials, I won't need to waste time here, because through the tutorial, I explain to you the best way, because I give you a live example for you to always retain it. The balance sheet is like a picture that you are taking at one point in time, because it says it. It's the statement of financial position, right? It's like a, and when you look at your notes, look at your personal notes, that's the part where I showed you that it's like a picture, right? But the income statement is like a motion picture, right? Or a video, right? It's like you are watching a movie, right? It has to do with the period that it covers. So an income statement could cover a year, right? An income statement for the first 6 months of 2024, or the income statement of the full 2024, right? Whereas the balance sheet will be like a picture. At the end of 2024, the financial year, this is the financial position of the company in terms of asset, in terms of equity, in terms of liability. So I hope that that is perfectly clear. So now when we will go down quickly, to the ratios, you will sometimes need your information that is coming from the balance sheet and information that is coming from your income statement. You need to pay attention to the timeline. You need to pay attention to the timeline. And that's the reason why, for example, what you get from your balance sheet, you will average it. And there is a reason for that. You average it so that you can have an idea of what the average is for the period. Okay? So that we are talking about same timeline, right? I wouldn't give you information for 2024 and I give you information for 2023, and there's no way for you to compare the two information. It's two different years. You see, so the timeline is very important. The reason why I'm raising this, I'm already thinking, I'm giving you this as a tip for your exams or your exercise. When you are reading a financial exercise, always check. They always give you like a type of story. 2024, the year ending 2024. There is always a story. And so for some of you, it is annoying. But it's not really, because they want you to understand that this matter is within a certain timeline. And that's all that you need. Okay. And as you know, if you go through your readings, obviously you will know your sales, right? So on your income statement, remember again, it's just like I was saying to Connor, it's the same as the statement of profit or loss, right? Or another appellation of it, it's the statement of comprehensive income, right? It's just there to measure the financial performance. But check over a specific period. So you, as our future entrepreneurs, you need to pay attention to the specific period that we are talking about. So for all your tests, all your assessment, all your exercise, always understand, have a clear understanding as to the timeline. Yeah, so sales return. What do we do with the sales return? Okay, I'm now gonna start speeding. I'm laying my bricks, bricks by bricks. And now I want to check if you have been doing your readings and if we are on the same page. What do you normally do with your sales return? What is the importance of the sales return? Why are they talking about the sales return?
Because it has to be deducted from your total sales.
Wonderful. This is just brilliant. Thank you so much, Taylor. Right? So that's the all importance. So don't waste time to be reading. And some of you don't even dare try to memorize anything. This is about common sense. This is about you understanding. Once you understand, you take note of it and then you move on. In finance, we don't waste time. Time is money. So the reason why they're giving you the sales return is they are saying, whatever problem we will give you out there. If we are talking about the sales returns, you just need to understand that from your sales, you need to deduct, just like Taylor said, your sales return. That's all. And we move on. You need to practice these examples. They're quite clear. Please practice them. Cost of sales. All right. When you are doing business, in order for you to generate sales, to generate revenue, you need to incur costs. That's where your cost of sales come in, right? So you have your what we call gross profit. And trust me, if you are understanding already these simple principles, you are deep down in finance, because these you will find it until the last chapter of this module. It will always be there in one form or another. So understand it now. So the cost of sales is so important because you can't do business without incurring that cost, right? This is the cost that you are incurring for your material, your direct material. There will be at a certain time, we will be repeating it all the time. Direct material, direct labor. You see, there is a particular cost that you incur, and that form part, but specifically when it comes to the direct material. Direct material. So whatever money that you need to spend, whatever cost you incur to be able to generate the sales, if you are a retail company, this is the part again where I'm asking each one of you to write me down there, if you may, please, the business that you are involved in, so that when I'm giving you examples, I'm giving you examples that are real, are relative to your line of business or your line of work, right? So if you have time there, just write down what particular industry you are in or which kind of company, or even if you're not working, maybe what you dream to do as a business before. But if you are in a retail, you buy merchandise. When you're buying that merchandise, that that inventory is your cost of sales. So you are buying merchandise and then you are reselling that merchandise, and you are adding a markup, right, to make a profit, right? Quick question, VAT. Is there any one of you who does not understand it or the concept of VAT? In the tutorial, actually, I spent time on this. This came from your tutorial. This calculation that I'm doing here, it is in your tutorial that I shared with you. So my question to you is, do you understand VAT, and do you understand how and when you calculate VAT? Perfect. Only 2 thumbs up. A third one, a fourth one. I have to say I'm satisfied. Okay. So remember again, we're going to be very direct, very clear. So that, if and only they ask you, it is in your question, then you need to pay attention to it. And it will always be something like this. Either it is that inclusive or it is that exclusive, right? Either it is including VAT or it is not including VAT, right? So if they give you sales or sales revenue as they are not mentioning VAT, then you know that 100% of that sales is pure sales revenue. You do not need to worry about that. But if they say it is including VAT, you need to remove the VAT. You need to exclude the VAT so that you can get the actual sales without the VAT. And what is the simplest way you do that? Don't scratch your head. Don't panic. You always divide it by 1.15. Is this part clear? So if it's not clear, tell me now. I don't get it. Okay, we understand that. And by the way, you don't need to worry if you feel a bit shy, but you always remember it is in our tutorials. It's well covered. I show you even how I do these calculations and how you should never worry. So there are even some, I remember one student one time said to me that they were wishing that VAT was not mentioned. It doesn't matter if it's mentioned or not. You know how to calculate it. You know how to deal with it, right? So it doesn't matter. But then that's my thing. If you are too scared of numbers and all that, you end up saying things like that. I wish the VAT is not included. Okay. All right. The gross profit, you know, the actual formula of the gross profit, the actual formula, it's not really sales minus cost of sales. It's actually net sales, right? It's net sales. Why it's net sales? And that's why I give you all this to say you always need to remember the net sales. If they start to talk to you about the VAT, they start to talk to you about sales return, you need to minus these things so that you can get the net sales. And it is the net sales that you need to use to minus the cost of sales. You must remember that if there is no VAT, there's no sales returned in the question, you don't need to worry. You will consider the sales as being net sales. I hope that's clear, right? It's making sure that I'm building us quickly so that we can start dealing with real world examples and exercise, right? Operating expense, I explained very well in other tutorials as well. That's your overhead. You will always hear about the overhead. Another word for overhead is indirect cost. It's not directly related to the actual um, how can I say, cost of sales, right? So that's why, but it's operating expenses. These operating expenses. Without that, we cannot operate. Okay? Without that, we cannot operate. And so you need again to go back to your, if you've done accounting, that's good, wonderful. But the purpose for me saying this is not to say that you're in trouble. No, I'm not saying that. I'm just saying you need to make a distinction between what is asset. Remember your statement, your balance sheet. Your balance sheet will always be there so that we need to make sure that you understand what is asset, what is equity, and what is a liability. Okay? You know how to categorize, right? For example, equipment is an asset. When you're buying equipment, that's an asset, right? For the business, right? It's not an expense. So don't take your equipment and you start to put it in your expense, right? So equipment is an asset. So we remember that categorization, especially in accounting, very important here. It's the same thing. It applies in finance. Okay. But the idea is that to run the business on the day to day, we need operating costs. We need to incur operating costs. And and therefore that will be short term, not long term spending. All right. And I explained that very well in our tutorials, especially in the case, for example, of rent. You might, if you are a business, you don't sign your rent on a month to month basis like, our residential rent. Okay. For businesses, they sign an agreement that will cover maybe 20 years or 2 years or 5 years, right? So you need to look, if they give you a rent, you must always remember, what is my timeline? I'm dealing with 2025, but the rent that is given to me covers 2025, 2026, 2027. So for me to make it relevant to 2025, I will divide that 3-year rent, 3-year contract, divided by 3 so that it covers only this year. Is that clear? Timeline. I repeat again, timeline. You will be a good financier if you understand timeline, a good financial manager if you understand timeline. And this is a good place where you will go, for example, just to know if you know to categorize, you know, these things. So please pay attention to this, practice it. And again, look at the amount of notes that are already available for you. You can learn, you can use it and do your own new notes. That's up to you, right? The interest, cost of borrowing money. Yes, money is not for free. Whenever we take money, there's a cost that incur. And remember, I always pointed out that the interest can be either positive or a negative, meaning that it could be an expense or an income. We could get an interest income or we have an interest expense. It's depend. If we are the one who borrowed the money, then it will become an interest expense. If they borrow the money from us, if we are lending money, right, we will get an interest income. Is interest clear? Because it's one of the biggest notions for this module. Do you understand interest? Wonderful. I like that. So Taylor get it, Esther get it, Christian get it, Agnes get it, who else get it? Guys, if you have a question on interest, feel free to ask. But this example 2.3, obviously you saw it. I make it quite clear for you. For example 2.3, because they give you a series of items, and for you to solve or to answer a question, you need again to know how to categorize. Credit losses recovered is a plus. We are recovering credit. So it's no longer a loss. It was a loss, we recovered it, then it becomes a plus. If we are receiving rent, that's an income. If we are receiving rent, if we are paying rent, that's an expense. So remember again, read properly the question. Most of the time, students do poorly because they don't read properly the question, right? Insurance, if they just tell you insurance, what does that mean? You are paying insurance, and that's an expense. Rates and taxes, that's an expense, right? Are we on the good? Right, so we're moving, guys. If you have a question, let's move on now to tax. You know tax. Let me remind you again, according to the textbook that we are using, VAT is 15%, not 17%, right? Sometimes you hear in the news that they were about to raise VAT to 17%. You are writing your test, and all of a sudden you start using 17% instead of 15%. It happened before, I can tell you. I have seen some funny VAT of 19%. I don't know which country they were talking about. But remember again, these things will never happen if you're practicing, right? So when you start practicing your exercises, right, you will never encounter this, you know? Income tax, it's black and white here. It's 28%, not 29, not 30. All right. So make sure that these you practice. And by the way, that's the rate. That's the tax, right? That's the tax rate. All right. So on your income statement, you always have an item. If it's not written there, you should assume it is there. There is a net profit before income and tax. I'm sure all of you have heard that. So whatever financial statement today, from today on, you can pick the financial, or you can pick the income statement or of any company out there. You will see the same thing. It's the beauty of finance. What a beautiful standard. You will see the very same thing wherever you go. All right. So income statement, if you would like to come to your final net profit, that will mostly be the last item that you need to minus, to deduct. If it's an income tax, right? Like I said in previous recordings, unless it is a rebate, meaning that you are getting some tax returns, in that case, it's going to be a plus. But if you are paying tax, obviously you are paying your taxes. As you can see here, this is again a very good example. You have your cells. Even if you wake me up in the middle of the night, I will be able to answer this. What is always on your income statement? It will be sales or revenue minus the cost of sales, which will give me the gross profit, right? Plus the operating income. What could be the operating income? It could be rent that we are receiving or credit losses that we are recovering, right? That will give us the gross operating income. Remember, it's a series of plus and minus. That's how beautiful this statement is. Brilliant. Whoever made this statement was a genius. He's blessed the world with this, right? So the gross operating income minus the operating expenses. Remember the operating expenses. What are they? These are not the actual, if you are a retail business, this is not the actual merchandise that you are buying. No. It will be other things like insurance, wages, and salaries. All those expenses that you are using to operate the business. So insurance, rate and taxes, wages, repairs and maintenance, advertising, telephone, printing, and stationery, all those things, right? That will give you the operating profit. Obviously, then you deal with the interest. That will be the operating profit comes before interest and tax. It always comes before interest and tax. Then, as per usual, deal first with the interest and then you deal with the tax afterwards. Very simple. Then you have your net profit after tax. Theme one covered. Is this clear? Now, Taylor had a good question on shrinkage. Remember shrinkage, the reason why it is given to you is because it describes the loss of gross profit. It's attributable to a combination of things. There's various things that can happen that will prevent, that will eat away your gross profit. And these are the causes of shrinkage. By the way, this question always comes in your test one. So rarely it's not there, but here it is, make notes so that prior to your final exam, for example, if they ask you the causes of shrinkage, this is something you don't need actually, oh my God, and I forgot to revise this. No, you could know it by heart, right? Things like thefts, aging, obsolete inventory. Yes, sometimes inventory just piles up and it's outdated and not sold, all right? All that can impact your turnover because remember, especially when we're going to go to the other chapters, we will cover really the inventory turnover because whatever we need to sell, whatever we are having as stock as our inventory, we need to, oh, by the way, cost of sales, I need to say this, cost of sales, when you're looking at the cost of sales, you need to look at your inventory. So I hope all of you understand that, right? When you're looking at, because some of you maybe might say, now I'm confused between cost of sales and operating expenses. No, when you're looking at your cost of sales, you are seeing your inventory. Okay, is that clear? And when I mean by inventory, okay, obviously you would say there's different type of business where maybe if it's a retail business, obviously you are relying on inventory. But if it's a manufacturing company, there's things that you buy, the direct material that you're going to use in order to produce, right? To manufacture products, right? So those are parts of your cost of sales, right? Okay, please read this, how to minimize shrinkage. Sometimes it's always there, and these are easy marks that you can grab, right? How to minimize your shrinkage, right? That's where things now are getting interesting, and they're going to take us until the end of the semester. The perpetual and the periodic systems, right? These are inventory systems. I'm gonna make it very easy in the tutorials I send you. The difference is one is perpetual, it's all the time. There is a record of what is coming in and what is going out, right? And that's the reason why, accounting wise, we're going to use a trading inventory account to record transactions. What is coming in, what is coming out, what is coming in, what is coming out. Periodic inventory system, as it says, it is done after a period of time. So there is a stock take that is done at the end of a particular period to know. And remember, these are inventory systems. It is for our inventory, not to track operating expenses such as insurance, right? Okay, remember again. How is it? Let me stop here and ask you if you have any questions. Nafisa, you kind of have question there, but I don't understand really the question. Like how it is, how it usually is on an invoice. What is that? The VAT. I suppose you were talking about the VAT. Just reassure me. And if you're talking about the VAT, you are correct. Because everybody is absolutely. So for the VAT, everyone who's doing business is already registered with the government to collect the VAT on behalf of is registered with the government to collect the VAT on behalf of the government, right? So the VAT is everywhere, even when you go to your shopping, and that's how practical is finance. Is that you see it on your own invoice when you buy groceries. You see it's there. It's real life, right? This is very important. So for whatever inventory system that we have there, you need to understand this concept of opening balance for the inventory. So if we are dealing with 2025, we need to know what happened in 2024. At the end of 2024, we would usually have some inventory that was not sold and that is there. Obviously, we're going to use that for 2025. We're not going to throw it away unless there is shrinkage. Unless there is shrinkage. Yeah, you get it? But if there is no shrinkage, we're going to take into account that closing inventory for 2024 will be an opening inventory, an opening balance, like some of you in accounting, for 2025. It's the beauty. Obviously, we're going to look at all the purchases we've done now in 2025. So what was left from last year, plus whatever purchases we're going to do this year, minusing the purchase returns. Look at the purchase returns. So if you are reading any example out there and they are talking about purchase returns, you need to be careful here. You need to minus, you need to deduct from your purchases the purchases returned. And you would add these things that will always be there. You get used to them. Carriage, import tariff, custom duties, you name them. If these are costs that you are incurring, you need to add them, right? Minusing the closing inventory. Oh, very important. So I'm not going to waste too much time on this. Covered in your tutorial. And then we go to our very last section. Here is the part where I want you to come in. There is not just formulas. I don't want you to memorize a single formula. I want you to understand it, right? So we would have bunch of ratios that are provided to us. Those ratios are not just for fun. They are there for you to examine a company. These financial ratios, they are a way for you to analyze a company, to analyze the liquidity of the company, the profitability of the company, the leverage, and all these things, right? They are very important. Why? Because it's important. If, for example, you need to invest in a company, how are you going to invest in a company or in any business out there without really knowing if the company is healthy and if it is actually a good deal or a good investment? Welcome to finance. Because as now you have come to finance, you will not take any unwarranted risks out there. You will take risk, but your risk will always be a very calculated risk. Are we on the same page? Does this make sense? So do not ask me, why are we doing all this? You paid money to sit and to to learn entrepreneurship. There is a very important skills that you need to acquire for you to graduate as a major in entrepreneurship, and that is a financial skill. You need this to be successful out there, right? Solvency risk, what do they mean by solvency risk? We need to be able to see if a company has an ability of settling its debt. That's what it's all about. So we could do what we call a solvency ratio, or we could do even something that is like a quick ratio. So here you have your asset, but what you just need to understand is that your asset must always be greater than your liability. If your liabilities are greater than your assets, you are insolvent, right? Profitability ratios, we're moving quickly. Easy. We talked about the gross profit. You can be asked to look at the gross profit. But why would you say, why should I not look at the net profit? Because it's much more better. No, the gross profit means something. And whatever calculations you will do, you need to provide the interpretation of it. So the gross profit, it measures a company's ability to generate profit. It's a very important ratio, right? So sometimes you just need to go quickly to the gross profit to be able to see if a company is capable of selling product cost effectively. It's amazing, right? Again, look at the place where I'm highlighting to tell you that this will always be the reason that you're going to use when we provide you with a problem and you are calculating ratios, the interpretations, how you are interpreting the ratios, you will use exactly what is there, right? So the net profit will also be another way of evaluating a company. You are doing an evaluation of a company or multiple companies, not just one. You can be doing evaluations of many companies out there. And that's why we talk about an industry, because some companies will be in a particular industry, right? So you need to look, for example, at what is the net profit within that industry. And you compare your company's profitability with the other companies within that industry. Is this clear? Liquidity ratio. Is your company liquid enough? Can it actually quickly solve the problem of debt, short-term liability? That's why we talk about the current ratio and the acid test ratio. So that's a good question there, Nafisa. But if we don't memorize the formulas, would it be possible in the exam or part of the fact that if we understand, we'll know? I seem to understand what you're trying to say. The first thing is, guys, they're not going to provide you these formulas, all right? And that's the part where I say It's part now of your practice, because if you are not practicing, remember, they want you to acquire a skill. You need to be able to acquire a skill. So practice. And these formulas are so dumb and so easy that if you understand them, you will never memorize them. But remember, one of our good friend, a past student, Easy, actually gave you tips on how she managed to get a distinction for this module. Is, for example, to write down some of these formulas for yourself. You write them down so that when it's time, for example, for the exam, the final exam, you can just revise some of these. You are revising them, not necessarily memorizing them. You can quickly revise them so you have that. She even said that she put those formulas, next to her bed or whatever, study area, and she could see those formulas at any time. It's good work also for you. So we want to see if you are able to settle short-term debt. These formulas are so simple. Remember this one I told you? When you are looking at the average debt collection period, because we are looking at how you are managing the assets, right? You take your average debt datas, right? Because these are datas who owe you money because you sold things on credit. So what you will do, because the datas come from your balance sheet, you will take an average. Remember that, because the balance sheet gives you a picture at one point in time. If you want to have a full picture, you will need to to get an average. Is this clear? So wherever you see an average, you don't need to memorize. You just need to understand that if it is coming from the balance sheet, it will be average. Unless they don't give you, normally what they will do is that they will give you for the current year and the previous year, then you know you need to average it. Okay? So the average settlement period, these are very important ratios. And that's what I want you to be doing, is to go and practice them. Would you please do the examples that are here, making sure that you get the examples right, and then we will be able to go to more examples that we're going to do in your extra materials. In your extra materials, you should be able to see solutions and text bank, right? So everything that you are doing, you'll find the solutions here in your solutions. And then the text test bank, we would even find more questions that we're gonna practice, me and you. So practice time has arrived. And guess what? Some of the questions for your exams are picked up straight away from your text bank. They are there. So the more you practice, you can never fail the exam. So that will be it for our first part. We will come when we do the practice for next week. Next week we will cover theme 1 and theme 2. So follow clearly what I'm trying to say here. We will cover theme 1 and theme 2, and then we will cover the last theme, and that will be, but I want you to start already playing with the ratios, because the investment part, that will be the last part we're going to do, right? That will be, there you go, investing in shares. But guys, all of this is already available for you. Okay? We have plenty of tutorials. What I just want you to be able to do is that you have covered all the theory, you are confident with the theory, and you are able to practice. Is that clear? So I've stopped the recording. If you want to tell me something out, not on record, while not being recorded, feel free. But how are you feeling about this particular learning unit? I believe you're going to enjoy it. Please, so don't feel any sort of panic. Like, oh my God, how am I going to remember these formulas? For now, forget about remembering the formulas. Practice, you know, and understand why we are doing a particular thing. Why are we using this ratio? Yeah, yeah, Connor, I like that. I really like that. So yeah. Guys, some in fact, some of the questions you would even need to do really any it's not extraordinary calculations. Let's be honest. It's not that much, right? But my thing, remember again, it's the interpretation, is how you interpret this financial statement. You will need basically what I'm trying to tell you, how important this whole module is for you, is that we will give you a financial statement and ask you questions, and you will look at the financial statement and be able to analyze the financial statement. That's amazing. And that's a financial skill, you know? So very, very important. So anyone, thank you so much for showing up. But I would like to say, you know, we together, right? The chat is not far. Should you need anything, should you want to ask any question, please do. I beg you. All right. And I told you, you just need to put up with me for 4 months, and I'm done. I'm out of your way, right? So let's keep working on this. I don't want you to come back in the second semester or next year. I beg you. Please, failing this module is a choice. So please don't choose that. All right? Are we clear? Last thumbs up before we call it the night. Awesome. Awesome. So, guys, please take a good rest, and I will get hold of you in the chat. I will also post this recording for the rest of the class. But thank you so much again for attending. I much appreciate. All right. We chat soon.
Thank you, sir.
Sorry, sir, can you still hear me? Hello, sir, can you hear me? Hello?